What's up, everybody? Hardest part of the Ring of Honor is here, because it's a Ring of Honor. It's a Ring of Honor show, so I thought I'd throw that. Shut the my cat! I swear to God, only meows when I'm recording. Always doing run-ins on this fucking podcast, whatever. I somehow get worse at starting these episodes, but nonetheless, today we got some Ring of Honor for you today. ROH Road to the Title 2002, a show that emanated from the esteemed Murphy Recreational Center in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I think I had a few high school indoor hockey games in this arena. But yes, it occurred on June 22nd, 2002. So it is a early 2000s indie wrestling event. So you kind of know what you're getting into. But I will say out front, if this is the first Ring of Honor episode on the Apron bump that you have stumbled upon, I encourage you to look back in the archives. I've done the reviews of the first 3 shows, this being the 4th. Not a whole lot of like storyline webs that you need to really follow or anything, but really entertaining watches in themselves, and they really build up to this show, which, as the title suggests, is a show where they're kind of building up to the first ROH champion. And the premise of this show, basically, and we'll get into it in the podcast, but just to give you the Cliff Notes version, it's basically a 16-man tournament and a single elimination tournament. And once it gets to the final 4, the final 4 face in a 4-way Iron Man match, a 1-hour Iron Man match, which is very interesting because I had never really even heard of that concept, a 4-way Iron Man match, until NXT did it like a few weeks ago. And now we're seeing it in 2002. So it just goes to show that, some things we see nowadays are learned from prior experience and prior benchmarking. So really interesting to see this concept almost 2 decades ago. So yeah, that's basically the premise of this show. It's like 98% of the show is matches leading up to qualify for that final fatal 4-way match, which on the next show will crown the first ever Ring of Honor champion. So we got once again very clear stakes, but we finally got some real stakes here, because the prior shows have kind of been more like introductory shows, kind of showing you these wrestlers that you may or may not know and kind of introducing them and their styles and their characters, or lack thereof, to the audience who are watching the VHSs that these come on. So definitely got some storyline implications starting to build in Ring of Honor, both for obviously the tournament, and also we got some stuff with the tag team division building, and we got some they try to do stuff with the women's division, but ultimately very much so fails. But as I said, we will get into that, and I have a great guest to get into that with, a prior guest on the Apron Bump, JD from the RedLeaf Retrocast. You might remember him from a few weeks ago when I had him on the Slamboree episode that I did, and a very knowledgeable guy, very entertaining podcast himself that he has. You can find it at redleafretrocast.blogspot.com, and pretty much all podcast. Oh my God, this fucking cat! Shut the hell up! I'm trying to promote my guest, and you're ruining it. Maybe I'll shut up now. Like I said, you can find JD at redleafretrocast.blogspot.com. You can find him on Twitter and Instagram at bowlingjd. And as always, I'll put his information in the description below, or wherever the description is on whatever platform you're listening to. And yeah, we have a good old time delving into some old school Ring of Honor because, as you may or may not know, this is a period where they are not. This is not the golden era of Ring of Honor by any means. There's definitely a lot of missteps, but there's also a lot of really good wrestling, and that's what I like about doing these Ring of Honor shows, is because there's always so much meat on the bone. Because not only is there a lot of great wrestling to talk about, but there is a lot of fun shenanigans to make fun of. So with that, let's get into it as I go throw my cat out the window. Ring of Honor Road to the Title 2002 with myself and JD from the RedLeaf Retrocast. But yeah, dude, so Ring of Honor, you were able to catch a show the other day?
Absolutely. A promotion I don't seem to watch a lot of.
Yeah, nowadays I don't think anybody really watches a lot of Ring of Honor.
Just ever. I've never been a Ring of Honor guy.
Really?
Yeah.
That's surprising because you're kind of into the more like indie kind of stuff, at least as far as I see. So that's kind of surprising.
Yeah, it's always been that promotion that just I always seem to like check out a show here or there, and then I just don't really feel I don't feel compelled to ever continue watching it over and over again. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't have that draw for me as a fan.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I have certain promotions that are like that for me as well. But like, so I got into Ring of Honor, like started like watching it as it was happening in like 2006, 2007. And I watched for like a few years, and it was probably like the most fun I've had watching wrestling. Like a lot of the guys you see in WWE now, you know, say what you want about WWE, but
with Ring like, of Honor from the 2010s.
Yeah, it's literally like the whole roster. It's just like, absolutely bonkers. And I mean, that says a lot about the talent that Ring of Honor had back then. They were able to like cultivate. And like, I'm excited to like finally get into like 2003, 2004, like an era that I never saw that had like CM Punk in his early days and Samoa Joe and Homicide and guys like that. And I feel like it is always good stuff.
Oh yeah, it's a super interesting time. You know, WCW, ECW had closed. WWE, you know, got who they wanted basically. Mm-hmm. Outside of the legends, they didn't feel like paying for.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
You know, I listened to that Invasion episode, and I'm like, man.
Like what could have been?
Obviously, it's what could have been, and there's like. If you read the sheets, as people say, I was going back and I'm like reading some of the things and a lot of the articles and books that were written of the time, and how this plays into just Ring of Honor. It's very prevalent because, you know, WWE, as they did have the money to like buy out, you know, Sting or Steiner or even Goldberg, and they just chose not to. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Even one or two of those guys would have made a big difference to the invasion. Why this is relevant is because the guys that they did take, better put, the guys they didn't take ended up, you know, starting Ring of Honor, TNA, various other indie promotions of the era, and this show was super interesting because TNA like started the weekend before.
Right. Yeah. Because they mentioned that on commentary. They were actually talking about what they were calling it NWA TNA at the time.
Right.
And I guess at this point, I guess AJ had already been wrestling for TNA, which was funny to me because I forget how long TNA has been around sometimes.
Oh, they will never die.
So somehow they just keep kicking. But yeah, I mean, I tweeted this out. I think you liked it, but it was just so funny to see Christopher Daniels and AJ Styles. I mean, we'll get to it in the main event, but there's so much like TNA overlap in this show, which is really interesting to see.
Yes, well, I mean, by all accounts, this is the very beginning of Ring of Honor, and it is 100% an indie promotion at this point in time.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It would evolve into, you know, kind of that second tier below WWE. You know, it wasn't drawing the crazy amount of crowds saying ECW was. It was like just that little tier below it, and it seems to never be able to reach above that. Meanwhile, TNA, right, at least television-wise, was able to reach above that, but for better or for worse, the pay-per-views would never never eclipse a certain amount. They could never grow in the same, one reason or another. Why this is so interesting is the overlap is almost 100%, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Just every guy is out there. The pool is just not so much rejects, but just the people that are trying to break in, and the people that just didn't get that WWE contract when WCW closed, such as your Paul Londons, your Kendricks, your American Dragon, aka Bryan Danielson of the time. And then there's a bunch of guys just starting to break out and come over from Europe, which was super interesting on the show. I didn't expect going in. So this was super fun seeing, who's still in the industry today, what mark they've made on the industry today, how important they are, where are they exactly in their role. So I can't wait to talk about all this. This was a fucking awesome show.
It was great. It was a lot of great wrestling. I will say though, and maybe you'll agree or disagree with this, but I felt like it kind of towards the end, it started to feel like it was dragging. Because it was just wrestling after wrestling after wrestling. It was just nothing but wrestling, which is fine, I guess. But I think that says a lot about the importance of how a show flows, because you can't deny the talent that's on this show. But I feel like the way that the show flowed, and everything kind of started blending together after a while. And I felt like by the time I was at the main event, I was pretty burnt out. And I feel like the crowd was too.
The crowd absolutely was. And I looked through the Torch archives and the Wrestling Observer archives, and I was able to find the Wrestling Observer, brief coverage over this show. It was through tape trading, as he admitted. He's like, yeah, I caught the tape a week later, and it was a really good show. This is Meltzer, of course. Because by all accounts, it was a good show, but it was clear that by the end of it, everyone was pretty burnt out. Gave a few of these matches 4 stars plus, which is very good stuff, especially of the time and of the era. And we're going to talk about the styles here, which, for better or for worse, translates to a lot of today's wrestling.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Definitely. I definitely agree with that. But as far as good wrestling goes, there's no better way to start than with Biohazard. What are your thoughts on Biohazard?
Boy, have you ever seen the movie Demolition Man?
I have not, but I can imagine.
Yeah, it's like whether you want to put Demolition Man as the movie reference, or just if you want to take a kid from 1999 and say, hey, what am I going to look like?
No, I mean, I feel like at this point I was probably creating a creator wrestler that looks something like this.
Yeah, Biohazard. He had a lot to be desired from the look. To describe his hair, which is probably his most interesting feature, not just the name, which is very indie.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, he somehow pulled off beaded dreads without hair.
I don't know what kind of maintenance he has to go through to accomplish that. It's probably the most impressive thing I've seen on the show. But I mean, this match. So the first match is Biohazard versus American Dragon, Bryan Danielson. So they're not calling him Bryan Danielson at this time, but still the same guy. Still looks pretty much the same. Honestly,
he was jacked.
Super jacked. And people always call him a vanilla midget, and I guess he's kind of short, but
comparatively to the Land of Giants, sure.
Yeah, but he could handle Biohazard, that's for sure. Beats him in 2 minutes or something. I don't even know. With the cattle mutilation, seeing that move.
Yeah, easily the weakest match on the show, I believe. So it starting first was very, very appropriate, I say.
Yeah. Well, it's a first round, so I should say at the top of the show, this whole show is basically a single elimination tournament, which results in the final 4 being entered into a 4-way Iron Man match to crown
doesn't that sound familiar?
Right? Literally, I had never heard of a 4-way Iron Man match until NXT did it a few weeks ago. And now, apparently, it happened in 2002. So I guess they're not as cutting edge. It's always got to be a cat running on this when it's me and you.
Well, luckily there's no lawnmowers just going crazy outside. It's raining, so they won't be a part of this.
Don't jinx yourself. Don't jinx yourself. So yeah, first match. So American Dragon moves on to the semifinals, I guess.
Yeah, moves on to the next round.
And then, so the next match, we got a preview into one of the best tag teams WWE ever saw. Paul London versus Brian Kendrick.
Whoa. Spanky, you mean?
Sorry. I didn't mean to disrespect the Spank Man.
You can't disrespect Spanky and his rise to the top on this night.
It's amazing that he even brought that name over to WWE for a little bit.
My God.
He was that confident in Spanky.
This is when commentary, I really started paying attention to commentary in the 475 people that were in the Murphy Recreation Center in Philadelphia.
The esteemed Murphy.
Yes, a.k.a. a high school basketball gym, which they would proceed to fuck this place up over the course of the show.
Well, you said a few things there that I want to touch on. First of all, that old, not arena, I don't even know what you call it, I guess gym, it just looked hot. Like watching this show.
Looked very uncomfortable.
And apparently, like they mentioned, like towards the end of the show, that it was like, I mean, they're probably exaggerating, but they said it was like 100 degrees in there, but maybe they weren't. I don't know. But yeah, I can't even imagine. But what are your thoughts on the commentary in this show?
So the commentary is the combination team of Donnie B. I'm not familiar with him, but I am familiar with one Steve Corino. Yes. So Steve Corino, he served his purpose on the show. He was your color guy. The play-by-play guy, Donnie B. He was very adamant over certain phrases, such as "This is not sports entertainment."
Yep.
This is real wrestling. This is pure. This is actually the same spiel that Ring of Honor has had since apparently day one.
Yeah. Man, to me, it almost like, because they didn't want any dead air. Like they felt like there always had to be some noise coming from the booth. And after a while, it felt like exhausting to me. It's like they were trying too hard to like put over like how amazing this show was.
I think it served its purpose to an extent. I thought they did a good job introducing us to the importance of all the wrestlers here, where they come from, how long they've been. There's like Bryan Danielson's a future in the industry. He's 3 years into his career. Biohazard has to prove himself to this guy who's very technical. Then they go into Spanky and Paul London. As my cat's biting me, wanting to play. He's like, "Oh, Spanky, that motherfucker."
Yeah. Big mark for Spanky.
Yeah, but they were at this point. They were saying Paul London was the bigger star, right? Mm-hmm. And he was going to break out. So them just saying things like that when Spanky wins this match really gets him over from the commentary's perspective. I'm like, oh, okay, so Paul London was the bigger guy, the better guy. You expect him to win, and then Spanky wins. And the moves that they were putting together, it was albeit a bit rough. A lot of the times they're trying a lot of innovative lucha style moves that in early 2000s you didn't see a lot of at all. Now, if you turn on like a CMLL show, you see like things 3,000 times this. But, they were definitely trying to do new shit to pop the crowd. And funny enough, I counted 4 holy shit chants on the show, and the first one came when Paul London hits a super kick on Spanky after they do a 3-4 move lucha sequence, but it was the super kick that got the pop at the end of it. So I was very much feeling it, because I felt it too.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And I mean, at that point, a super kick is a legit move. I mean, this is when Shawn Michaels is coming back to WWE, so that move is over at this point. Whereas today, it's like a headlock takeover. Pretty much.
I mean, come on, drop down, leapfrog, headlock takeover, super kick, Canadian Destroyer. We know the rules.
Yeah, the usual transitions in the beginning of the match.
Exactly. Maybe a tombstone pile driver in there to just pop up from. It's excellent.
Yeah, just to warm up the crowd a little bit,
Yeah, but they've been doing that since the 80s, so it's okay.
Yeah. So yes, as you said, Spanky wins this match. He's definitely been a very prominent figure on all of these shows so far. This is the 4th show.
that Ring of Honor has done, and he beat Bryan Danielson the last show, and he's beat Jay Briscoe. So he's like one of the most built, like as far as wins go, built guys on the roster at this
He's
point.
on the rise, and Brian Kendrick is still wrestling for WWE today, I believe.
He sure is.
Crazy.
So what we got after that? Jay Briscoe versus Doug Williams. Man, oh man.
19 years old, Jay Briscoe, if I have that number right.
Something like that. Both these guys are looking young and fresh.
Mark hasn't even debuted yet, apparently, according to commentary.
Do you know why he hasn't debuted?
He's 17, that's why. And he has to wait till he turns 18. That's that just blew my mind. I was like,
hilarious.
Wow, they've been in Ring of Honor so long.
Because they're still there, aren't they?
Yeah.
They've never
like
left.
50-time tag champions.
Yeah, they literally haven't even like flipped the TNA for a little bit. Like some guys go to TNA and then come back, or go to WWE and come back. Nope. These guys have been there the whole time. Insane. So that's like, what, 18 years? Man. But we get a look into very, very early Briscoe, as well as a young Doug Williams here. It's a pretty solid
young,
match.
Fairly young.
Yeah. I mean, in comparison to, I think he's still wrestling nowadays, isn't he?
He retired, but sort of kind of not. He had a big like Euro retirement tour.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was just in like November last year, if I remember.
Right. Because I know he was with TNA for a long ass time, at least since like the mid 2000s.
He was in Noah in Japan for a little while as well. Doug Williams has been around, and I will say this. The combination of American Dragon, Bryan Danielson, and Doug Williams on the show was very welcome. And there's a third guy on this show that is a good welcome. I'll get to him later. I'll save that little piece.
Oh, what a tease. What a tease. So Jay Briscoe versus Doug Williams. It's a pretty short match, but I think they maximized the amount of time they were given. And Doug Williams wins with the Chaos Theory, which is like one of my favorite moves.
Rolling German out of the corner. I love that move.
Beautiful. Chad Gable does it very well nowadays too.
Yeah, but he never wins anything, so the move means nothing.
I mean, sorry, Shorty G.
No, he doesn't go by that anymore. He quit.
Oh no, I guess I'm not a fan of him anymore. Now he's not marketable. I hope he at least keeps the Looney Tunes basketball gear.
Oh no,
we can only hope.
Oh no,
we can only hope.
They should have kept it. The next Space Jam's coming out. That I'm not going to watch.
Missed opportunity. But yeah, very interesting. At the end of this match, they're kind of teasing tension between the Briscoes.
And that'll work out in 10 years. What a long-term story that was.
I believe they end up having a match at some point against each other. I've never seen it, but I've heard rumblings.
They've had a couple.
Have they? Yeah, I have a very loose knowledge of like the early 2000s ROH, if you can't tell. Doug Williams moves on, and then this next match, man, Johnny Storm versus Jody Fleisch. Is that how you pronounce it? Fleisch.
Yes.
Two guys I had never heard of before.
Honestly, I had heard of one of them.
Which one is that?
Jody Fleisch. He is a prominent veteran of the UK indie scene and Europe in general. Mm-hmm. Both these guys still wrestle today. Jody Fleisch recently showing up on Progress Wrestling before Europe shut down. Yeah, dude's still in phenomenal shape. And the story behind Fleisch and Storm is basically they came up together. They're really young here. No shock. Everyone on the show is really young.
Right.
And they would come over to the US and do tours together, and they would just wrestle each other over and over again. And even commentary pointed out that they have, at this point in their lives, in their early 20s, they had already wrestled each other 107 times. So then I'm like, all right, I got to see, is Johnny Storm still wrestling? And up until February, they even had a match together. So they've been wrestling against each other.
God.
Every year since they've debuted.
At what point is it just like, I don't want to wrestle this guy anymore? It's boring.
Well, I think they do it just because they know it's like a night off.
Yeah.
Like, all right, exactly. What are we doing? The same? All right, got it.
Yeah. Man, yeah. I hope, though, they fine-tuned a few things since this match here in 2002, because it was one of those things where it's like, so Johnny Storm, Jody Fleisch, both, high-flying, fast-paced kind of guys. And it's one of those things where they did like 100 things and like 95 of them were good, but like the 5 things that they didn't do well really stuck out. There's a lot of very spotty, like very complex spots that they did, and this match felt kind of botchy and kind of stuttery to me. I don't know what it was, but like you said, both of these guys are very young at this point, and I'm sure they've only gotten better.
They
Jody
really
Fleisch
wanted
like
to do
14 at this point.
Yeah, they really wanted to do high-end lucha libre moves. It's almost like they were tape trading CMLL over in the UK, and they're like, we're gonna do that.
Right.
We're gonna do reverse Hurricane Ranas off the top, Spanish flies. We're just gonna do it all, and then we're gonna add a twist, and hopefully it works out.
add a spin, add a few degrees rotation to everything.
And I believe it was Jody Fleisch goes for a Conhilo over the top, and he just crashes calf first into the barricade and actually bends it
like shin first, and it
it looks
like
so
you said,
painful.
destroyed it. I was surprised he was able to keep on wrestling after that. Honestly,
he didn't just keep on wrestling. He throws Storm back in the ring, and he proceeds to do a front flip and land on his feet to prove his shin is okay.
Yeah, like when you're young, you're just made of rubber.
Yeah. I just crashed leg first in this metal. I will show all you motherfuckers how tough I am. Front flip, land on the feet, plant. Hey, where's my scorecard?
Exactly. Well, it's funny because I don't know if it was the show before this or the one before that, but there was a Paul London match where he was facing some guy. I even forget his name, but that guy did a pretty identical move. And just like Jody Fleisch here, he landed on the barricade, but he ended up breaking his fucking leg. And the match it was like right at the beginning of the match, and the match had to get called off. So it was like, I'm just thinking of this now. This is pretty much like an identical spot. So someone was looking out for Jody here. So after all this hullabaloo and shenanigans in this match, Jody ends up winning with he counters a springboard Hurricane Rana from Johnny Storm into a powerbomb and gets the win here. So he moves on. But like I said, a lot of impressive stuff in this match, but I felt like they could have toned it down a little bit.
No, you can't tone it down. They're young and excited, and they're trying to prove themselves. This is their really only chance to go out there and try to knock the house down. And I really think that, let's say that they were gonna go and do like I don't know, Steve Austin versus Johnny B. Bad style, right? In 2002, you like this comparison? I know you do.
I love it. I wish they would have.
No, because we hated that match and thought it was boring, and it had a shit finish. You know what? Nothing on this show had a shit finish.
Yeah, no managerial interference on this show. Much to your chagrin, I'm sure.
Oh, there was a couple managers.
But yeah,
but
we'll get to that. Don't worry.
No, yeah, but like,
I think there's somewhere in between this and Johnny B. Bad versus Steve Austin.
But what is that is the question. And there's a few matches that you can point to on the show where once you have the experience or you're in there with a veteran to help you refine and know what to do, it becomes a great match. It becomes more than just a super lucha libre athletic appearance to it all. Because I was vastly entertained. I was like, oh man, if only they hit that, would have been even better. Take an Ospreay Ricochet match where they hit and plant everything perfectly, and you think it's the best thing you've ever seen in your life if you're into that. That's what this could have been if they just hit everything. It's you always compare it to like a gymnastics performance, right? And you want to throw up the scorecard. So I do get what you're saying. Where if you botch a couple things in a gymnastics performance, you're getting points knocked off that scorecard.
Yeah, it is what it is. Yeah, I guess, at the end of the day, it was entertaining. It might have been entertaining from like a car crash kind of aspect or like a gymnastics kind of viewpoint, but it entertained me. So I guess at the end of the day, that's all that matters.
Right. We were not entertained by Johnny B. Bad and Steve Austin.
Exactly.
Much bigger stars, you could argue.
So there's something to say about that. But what I was entertained by is this next little segment here. We have Christopher Street Connection backstage.
Oh, no.
And they want a bite out of Jerry Lynn's banana.
Yes. Yes, they do.
Because they're gay.
They sure are. Whoa, cat.
This
Cat's throwing shit at me.
Not a fan of Christopher Street Connection, I guess.
That was hilarious. He just whips a toy at me and hits the microphone.
Oh, man. Well, after that, how do you recover from that? You go on to...
That's good timing. Good comedic timing by a feline. Did you know he's gay? Wham! Absolutely.
Hold on. Is it because they don't like pussy?
Oh!
Anyways.
Easy now.
So, but two guys that are not pussies are Prince Nana and Low Key.
Wow.
Oof.
I mean, at least one of them isn't.
Who's the pussy?
Oh, Prince Nana.
Oh, fuck
you see that stupid bitch slap he did? That was weak.
Well, yeah, I guess.
Can we talk about how like late 90s the show looked?
Like just visually, or like what they were doing?
Visually, the shoddy camera work of the dude ringside, the super uber in between things. It's like Ring of Honor, camera tilted slightly to the left. Here's your word art from Microsoft Paint across the slap heard across the world. It shows a slow motion of this weak ass slap across Low Key.
Yeah. I was about to say, you didn't like their PowerPoint presentation like montages before every match?
Yeah, that's what it was. That's exactly what it was. It reminded me of like an old Tony Hawk Pro Skater type font and highlight reel that they would do.
Dude, it was like, because like the past shows have had less wrestling, so you see more of those like terrible promos backstage and like all the in between stuff. But man, this is like, it's hilarious to see back then how far they've come. There weren't that many promos on this show, unfortunately, but it's always like some guy with a camcorder finds a guy backstage, like, hey, cut a promo real quick, and this guy's like in the locker room. He's like, and
Jerry Lynn with a Walkman.
Yeah, what the fuck was that? I don't even know what the point of that was.
He was plugging, I guess, some band or something. He was plugging Relapse.
Right.
That you can act. I looked this up. I had to. Relapse.com still exists, and he was plugging the band. It was like Mortician. Because they asked him, like, oh, are you listening to Mortician? He's like, no, man. I got this new CD off of relapse.com. You gotta go there. I'm like, I'm going there. And it still exists. And it's still selling Mortician and all kinds of bands and CDs and stuff.
Is it like a Napster kind of deal?
No, it's just like this. I'm looking at it right now. I'll send it to you.
I'm not gonna fucking use relapse.com.
Nah, come on. You gotta look at the site. It's what Jerry Lynn was plugging.
Well, if there's anybody I'm gonna blindly follow into the dark, it's Jerry Lynn.
You're gonna doubt Jerry Lynn's Walkman taste of music?
You know what? I think I'm gonna be bold and say yes. I'm gonna doubt it.
So Low Key kicked the shit out of Prince Nana, knocked his ass out in 4 minutes.
Do you think this was like a shoot, or do you think that was how it was designed to happen?
No, it was absolutely designed to happen this way.
Because it legitimately looked like a brutal kick to the head. And like Low Key looked kind of upset at it. But
no, that's just who Low Key is. He's super uber serious. In MLW today, he was kind of before they shut down, he was in the middle of this knockout gimmick. So very much the same. I saw that. I saw this on this show, and I was like, "Oh, okay." So he's been kind of doing this for 20 years, basically.
I guess. Shit, yeah.
Jacked as and shredded, Low Key, by the way.
He still is. I feel like, isn't he?
Oh yeah. Much better shape here though. I feel more shredded, I should say, and very much still kind of the same character. He's still the same Low Key, and I would argue the biggest star on the show.
For sure. For sure. It's so funny watching him here and like what his style and what his presentation was. And then I think of Caval in WWE. Well, he's coming to the ring with Michelle McCool and Layla, and they're like bickering over him and the whole early NXT stuff, like game show stuff. It's so hilarious to think of him here and think of where he would be like in the late 2000s.
Poor, like he was. I thought he was pretty good in TNA. X Division champion. He was good in New Japan before they kicked him out of the country for being too serious with his Hitman gimmick. I didn't like him doing that. But yeah, he's been all over. I really liked his MLW title run that he had recently. He's a breed from a different era, you might say, or the previous generation. You know, people call him an asshole, but I just have this weird respect for the guy that people say he takes it too seriously. You go, well, Bret Hart took it seriously, and it seemed to work out for him. I don't think it's a bad thing. You take your job seriously.
And I think a lot of that translates to the skill that he has in the ring, because he had a style that nobody else was able to replicate then or since.
Right. There's a match later that.
We're gonna get to that. That's probably my favorite match on the card. Honestly,
absolutely, it was.
And one of those guys is in the next match, Amazing Red versus Xavier.
Yeah, what a interesting matchup this was.
Yeah, Xavier. I mean, it's a wonder that he never like went on to have any like significant success, because it felt like he looked like a star here.
Well, I mean, he was the second ever Ring of Honor champion.
He was, and I guess he never really got above that. I don't know, because I was talking about those terrible promos earlier, and Xavier is one of those guys. So maybe he just never really figured out, how to translate his character like through promos or whatever it is. But
whatever it was, I thought he was pretty competent in the ring. They thought they saw a big star in him. I can't really blame them. And we would quickly, obviously in hindsight, we quickly found out why he wasn't as big as you probably thought he would be when you have other guys on this card, such as AJ Styles, Daniels, even Doug Williams, Amazing Red, and I just think that he was in this crop that they just passed him up. Simple as that.
Yeah, there's a lot of complete packages in Ring of Honor. You get Samoa Joe coming in, you get CM Punk coming in,
right? Chris
Hero, all those guys. So there's a lot of talent that you have to sift through.
Yeah, and MLW was also starting up around this time, having similar guys come out of there. That's where CM Punk came from, and everyone found homes in their own little ways. Yep.
But this match here, Amazing Red versus Xavier, another kind of a short match. Honestly, kind of a forgettable match. I mean, there's just so many matches on this card. I'm like struggling to even remember anything significant from this match, other than Amazing Red goes for his Red Alert, which is like a kind of a Phoenix Splash spiral tap kind of move, and he like lands right on Xavier's fucking legs, which I don't know how he didn't break a patella or what. Like, holy shit. And but other than that, pretty good match. Amazing Red gets the win after that Red Alert splash, then a standing shooting star, and this is actually Xavier's first loss in Ring of Honor. So
yeah, that's what got Amazing Red over. So let's see here.
Yeah,
Amazing Red was 20 in this match.
Yeah, I believe they mentioned that at some point.
Yeah,
during the show.
He was, I believe, he was only a couple of years. Like, he had debuted, but I believe he broke out of wanting to do it full time, like in this calendar year that we're talking about. I could be mistaken there, but this was his breakout.
Mm-hmm.
Into
the American. He was going to TNA eventually, right? Amazing Red.
Oh yeah. He would break out in TNA, X Division, like a lot of these guys on the show, actually.
Yeah. Some of them, like currently at this point, they were
just starting to. Yeah.
So yeah, Amazing Red moves on, and then the segment backstage was just so bizarre to me. Like watching it, because it's Scoot Andrews, the Black Nature Boy.
Yeah,
he's big Scoot Andrews guy. He's taking photos, I guess, posing for the camera. And then some random dude comes up with some Japanese woman, Sumi Siaki. Is that how you pronounce the name?
Sumi Sakai from JD Star
That's
at
it,
the
is,
time of it's dark days of Joshi wrestling over in Japan. I don't think it was Gabe Sapolsky that was there.
It could have been. I think it was a while before he got there, though.
No, they were mentioning Gabe Sapolsky as part of Ring of Honor at this time. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. If you listen to, I was trying to pay a good amount of attention to the commentary, like what they'd reference, what they do. They mentioned WCW Nitro at one point. They mentioned it in this match with Christopher Daniels, I believe, against one Scoot Andrews, saying he almost ended his career on Nitro. And I was like, man, I do remember that. This dude almost broke his neck and shoulder.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. Like Daniels would go on to have such a long career. I mean, he's still kind of going in AEW, after that neck injury, which is a testament. I mean, because that doesn't always happen. Steve Austin, a neck injury definitely halted his career. So,
oh yeah. So Scoot Andrews, indie guy for basically his whole life. Christopher Daniels basically runs production and match lineups, or he has a lot of different roles. Talent relations, that's what he does. He helps with talent relations in AEW. His career is winding down. I can totally understand why he wrestles more sparingly these days. Dude's 50. He's I have a feeling they're going to use him a little bit more. They're going to have him go out in a good way. I mean, shit, SCU's still going, so that's totally fine.
Yeah.
He was the fallen angel preacher gimmick hardcore here.
Very much. So much so that he decided before this match he was going to start his own faction called The Prophecy.
Yes. You got to take out Low Key. It's all about Low Key. Fucking Low Key. Beat him.
So at this point, The Prophecy is just Daniels. And then he introduces the first member, Simply Luscious. Who comes out and couldn't look more apathetic. So uninterested. I don't. What can you tell me about Simply Luscious?
Well, Simply Luscious was simply not fun to watch. She was terrible. She was not a good wrestler. She looked like she had never wrestled in her life beforehand. And Sumi Sakai, bless her, she was clearly way better. And this really gave me flashbacks of that terrible AEW match where Shida and Big Swole had a match. And not Big Swole is easily better than Simply Luscious, but the miscommunication and just not really knowing your next movement, that was Big Swole against Shida, because Sumi Sakai here was all right, we're going to duck down and clothesline, but then you're going to reverse, right? You kind of clearly see the body movement of it all. But then Simply Luscious hesitates, and it causes Sumi Sakai to go, "What are you doing?"
It's a rough one because 2002 women's wrestling is pretty much non-existent
in the West. Yes,
in the West, yeah. I was going to ask because you're big into the Joshi stuff. I mean, is there anything? Is Sumi Sakai still around, or did she ever end up becoming anything major anywhere?
I mean, she would stick around with Ring of Honor. She's actually a big liaison to a lot of wrestlers that come to the West, especially women's wrestlers. She lives in New York, I believe.
Okay, good to see.
Yeah, she was part of JD Star promotion over in Japan. She speaks English now. Maybe not so much back then in 2002. That part I don't know.
Right.
But she would, in fact, be the first champion for Women of Honor when they revamped that just botch of a revamp.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Huh. And that was kind of recently, wasn't it?
Yes, that was recently. So anyone who says AEW is the worst women's division, I'm like, you have forgotten a couple other promotions that still technically have one.
Just a few.
Just a few, and it kind of puts more perspective on just how women's wrestling is such an interesting topic, and this match did bring it up because I watched this with a couple people in my Discord, and we just got on this big conversation of the dark times in women's wrestling just after 2000, with All Japan Women basically folding. Even though Gaio was profitable, that's Chigusa Nagayo's promotion. She was about to shut it down in a few years. JD Starr wasn't doing too well, so there just wasn't a lot of just wrestling in general. Not to mention on the men's side as well, WCW closing, All Japan Pro Wrestling having this huge split of like 90% of their dudes to make Noah. New Japan was in the shitter.
Yeah. No, it's definitely it's interesting time. That's kind of like why I like going back and watching these old ROH and old TNA shows, is because it's in a world where WWE is kind of has the monopoly on wrestling as far as, global, from a global aspect.
Right. And there was even a visible like culture gap at this time, because Sumi Sakai is doing a lot of the just trying to hype the crowd up, the clapping. He's like, hey, I'm gonna fucking do a splash. I'm going to the top rope, clap, clap, clap. And the crowd's like, what are you doing?
There's another, because we talked about the overlap earlier, and you were on for the Slamboree episode when Johnny B. Bad came out with the what was it, I Love Philly.
Yeah, and they fucking boo his ass.
And then we got here, Sumi Sakai comes out with a Phillies hat to the applause of nobody.
Yeah, it's like, oh, come on. She's trying, guys.
She's trying. It's fine. But it's just funny how Philly pandering just exists in all promotions in all eras.
Yeah, maybe Philly maybe you should just go against him from the beginning. Just wear like a Pittsburgh hat. Just don't try to butter up the Philly crowd. It's not happening.
Not easily swayed, Philly.
Just go against him and you'll get a better reaction.
Yeah. For sure, but
why are these wrestlers always only heels in Philly? Well,
everyone in Philly is a heel at heart.
Yeah, this poor match. It absolutely sucked. Poor Sumi Sakai. She tried her best, but Simply Luscious was simply not great.
Right. I guess if anything, it broke up all of the good wrestling matches, and so now we get back to that with AJ Styles versus Jerry Lynn.
Oh. Phenomenal, one might say.
A match I didn't know that I needed in my life. This is very, in some ways, similar to the RVD Jerry Lynn matches. It was in no way on that level, especially at this point. But certain similarities that I saw, at least. And this is fresh off of Jerry Lynn's legendary light heavyweight championship run in WWF.
Oh,
so
yes, legendary.
It's got that going for him.
Poor guy.
But yeah, really, really great match here. AJ Styles ends up winning with the Styles Clash. And this felt more like, it didn't feel indie to me. It felt like this is a match I could see on like WCW, WWE.
Well, I mean, come on. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. We would never see this match on WCW.
You would, but nobody would watch it.
No, I mean, there would be managerial interference. You would see weapon shots. You would see a random, maybe a count out in a false count anywhere match. You might see that. Maybe put something on a poll. It wouldn't be 15 minutes and 30 seconds. It would be like 5 minutes and 30 seconds.
Right, yeah.
It would be the antithesis of a wrestling match, one might say. Because this one was super fun. I loved how you said it didn't feel indie. Testament to probably Jerry Lynn on that one. Controversial statement, I'm probably sure.
Yeah.
But AJ Styles, like, you could see the potential this guy had, even in 2002, where he's just rising to this occasion to put on a 15-minute match with a veteran at this point in Jerry Lynn. And funny enough, AJ Styles still wrestling today, 40 plus years old. Doesn't look like he's slowed down a bit. He slowed down, from the spiral taps he'd be doing. And cable jumping, but just phenomenal. He's one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, AJ Styles. It's a shame he's where he's at now, in promotion wise.
He's doing just fine in WWE.
I disagree, but anyways,
okay.
I disagree. But anyways, he could be doing way more. Okay.
Well, I mean, look, he's here in ROH. He would then go to TNA and have a great run there with great matches with Joe, Daniels, Kurt Angle, bunch of great matches. He would go to Japan, have matches with Okada, Kota Ibushi, Shinsuke Nakamura, a bunch of guys in Japan. He comes back to Ring of Honor, has
phenomenal
matches
career, no doubt. He's done it all.
He gets to WWE when he's like 37. It seems like a pretty good arc to me.
I mean, he's winding down, so I don't really blame him for taking the money.
He's winding down. He has slowed down, but he's not really slowed down. He's just evolved his style to fit And it
Correct.
fits more of a WWE style. So in that sense, I feel like his presence in WWE is not a bad thing.
Well, that's the part that irks me. It's not so much like I don't doubt his skill. I don't doubt his accomplishments, right? Just to make that clear. It's the presence that they utilize him. They treat him more as a utility guy more than a superstar, right? Because I'll give you an example. Cat, you're killing me. I'm talking about AJ Styles here. I know you said he's a cat one time. God, we watched it. Yeah. Anyways, so like he shows up in Japan and they make him phenomenal, to use his word, right?
He's been phenomenal.
He is a international superstar. He's top of the card. They give him a faction, basically. They do all these things. Everything's around him. He is prime target one, right? He's one of your, let's call him power four, okay? Gets to WWE, and I remember that Royal Rumble he shows up as, and it was a big pop, but the camera posed to not him, right? It's kind of like that Booker T. It really this is what it reminded me of. It reminded me of that Booker T meets The Rock segment, right? It's not about Booker T. It's about how The Rock reacts. And that's kind of WWE to me in a nutshell. Like AJ Styles, despite being in his 40s now, should be a top guy. And he doesn't come across as a top guy. That's someone else's position, kind of the Randy Ortons of the world. But anyways, AJ Styles proved he is this top guy here, and he rose to beat a veteran in Jerry Lynn, really doing what he was supposed to do and to get this young guy over and be this presence in the locker room. Like this match historically served such a great purpose and really had me thinking about like all these different things. Jerry Lynn being an agent in AEW and how he puts together certain tag matches and has stories being told in the ring with, you know, a style that we saw here on this show, really, with this 2002 Ring of Honor lucha libre type crowd excitement style, to kind of put some words into it.
Yeah, it's definitely good to have someone like that to kind of fine tune and kind of, you know, give them some direction with their style, because they have a lot of talent on this roster. It's just a matter of kind of growing and evolving your style to make people care about your match.
Like how are you going to put these matches together? And that's something like WCW really lacked, was these agents trying to not make the wrestlers do their style, right? It's the agent trying to get the wrestler style to work in the instance. And Jerry Lynn wasn't making AJ Styles work his style. He was working to AJ Styles' strength.
Yep.
And there's I could point to Impact in a lot of ways in TNA, where that's where I think they falter in match structure. I think that's one of AEW's strengths. Does it work all the time? No, because there's conflicting styles and everything. I actually kind of find that interesting when you have conflictions like that. Makes it for an interesting match structure. New Japan is very much like that as well, where there's a lot of different styles from what different wrestlers do. Because you don't want a homogenized presentation. That's kind of what I'm driving at.
Right. And there were at times where we kind of touched on it before, but that's kind of how the show felt at times. But AJ Styles versus Jerry Lynn was kind of it was a good breath of fresh air.
Right. And then there's a second match on here that actually two other matches on here that also meet that kind of presentation to it all. Agreed.
But before that, we got some tag division shenanigans.
Oh no!
Next, so we got what are their names? Dunn and
there was a billion teams that came out.
Well, here we go. So we have two, for all intents and purposes, just picture like two 14-year-old boys in the ring.
Yeah. And okay, then, I follow you.
So now we have the Hit Squad come out. Who, for anyone not aware, it's two big, not jacked up wouldn't be the word. Some thick boys coming out. And just kick the shit out of these jabronis. Hit one of them with a gnarly burning hammer, about as good as you can hit on somebody. Probably wasn't good for the guy that took it. But then you have The Hit Squad's out there. They grab the mic, the corded microphone, and they claim that they're the top tag team in Ring of Honor. And then what ensues is a very WWE-esque type of, you have people tag teams coming out. So you have Divine Storm comes out, and then SAT comes out. I think maybe another team. The Carnage Crew comes out. Natural Born Sinners are involved, and all these guys are brawling, and people are busted open, and everybody's laid out. And then once everybody's laid out, I think it's Jose Maximo does like a dive from the top rope to the outside on everybody. And then what do we hear? The Village People, YMCA, on the speakers for maybe the biggest pop of the night. Which was, it's like they're building this, I don't know, cult following for them, maybe. I don't know, just because of how ridiculous their gimmick is. And then they start making out in the ring because they're gay, and gay guys always make out in public, apparently.
Of course. We all know this to be true. They showed me in the ring.
Yes, and they're heels because they're gay. But don't worry, the Natural Born Sinners are here to save us from this gayness.
Yes. What perfect people than Homicide and New Jack to really just murder these flamboyant youngins.
It was, oh god, yeah. And then the Connection has a manager. I forget what her name is. I always forget her name. But they were calling her the Hag.
Of course.
I don't know if that's her legit nickname or what. But so the Natural Born Sinners take the Hag and each bend her over their respective knees and spank her because women. And
yes.
Steve Carino with
it wouldn't be New Jack without something controversial.
It wouldn't be. And then Carino says, "Yeah, spank the cottage cheese off her ass," or something.
I didn't hear that. Oh, I'm so sad.
Trust me, this was pretty tame in comparison to a lot of the Christopher Street Connection segments in the past. But yeah, just a lot of hullabaloo here. I guess trying to build a tag division.
Yeah,
they got like 5 or 6 teams here.
You can kind of tell, because Ring of Honor is just starting and TNA and MLW just starting. This was ROH's idea. Okay, we have this tournament. How are we gonna get everyone to know the tag teams that are involved in our promotion? Which is interesting because at this point it's an indie promotion. They're very territorial at this time. So I suppose you're gonna get a lot of the same fans, and word of mouth will get around, right?
Yeah,
because one of my local promotions here is Beyond Wrestling, and they do something similar in this way. Not to the extent we witnessed here with a lot of these shenanigans and get the tables references and and New Jack bleeding and yelling profanity as many times as he can in the span of 60 seconds.
yeah. It was, God, whatever it takes to get a pop, I guess.
They got a pop, but then you could definitely feel the crowd it went on way too long. The crowd was sucked out of it. It was like 20 minutes. I'm like, okay, I get it. Here's all the tag teams. You guys beat each other up. Then you had the New Jack and Homicide staring down the beer boys, the beer gut boys.
Yeah. By the way, it's not New Jack.
It wasn't?
No, it's Homicide and Boogaloo.
I could have sworn that was New Jack. I didn't even question it.
Well, that's racist.
Why is that racist? I thought it looked exactly like him.
It's probably New Jack, right?
Hold on.
I'm just kidding. Well, I'm pretty sure it's because Boogaloo and Homicide were a tag team, and they've been pretty prominent on the previous shows. I feel like I would have noticed if it was New Jack.
All right, hold on. 2020 Boogaloo Kings comes up in Wikipedia there.
Yeah, if you type in Boogaloo, you're going to get a lot of weird
I put Homicide and Boogaloo, and I got this like...
You're going to get some U-porn links.
No,
probably.
I got this like this dude in California that attacked police officers, and he was arrested.
Are we sure that's not the same Boogaloo?
It was the 2020 Boogaloo killings.
I wonder, maybe that's... Honestly, where he references his name. Maybe that's why he has that name.
This is 2020, not 2002.
Oh, shit, sorry.
He saw into the future.
That's just another layer to his gimmick.
All right. Well, yeah. Okay. I thought I didn't even question. I was like, it looks like New Jack. The shit he was doing and the shit he was saying, I was like, that's probably New Jack.
He's in an orange jumpsuit. It's probably New Jack.
Yeah. Nobody else even crossed my mind.
Yeah, that's hilarious. But no, yeah, you got give some respect to Boogaloo. God damn it. Hopefully, I'll never see Boogaloo again on this podcast, at least. But
oh no. Maybe New Jack will replace him.
Man, that honestly could. That sounds like a thing that could happen.
Absolutely,
I'm pretty fuzzy on my early 2000s ROH. That could be a thing that happens. I wouldn't put it past him. But yeah, if anybody has a stupider name than Boogaloo, it's Spanky. And Spanky is here once again to face Jody Fleisch in the next round of the tournament. Was it this match where that moonsault on the barricade happened, or was it the first match with Jody Fleisch?
It was the first one.
Was it? Okay.
I think they did it again, though.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that sounds like a thing.
The barricade, by this way, is propped up and held together by zip ties.
I don't know what they thought that was helping. I guess maybe it feels like in the way of like the walking air. I don't know.
It's got to keep those rowdy Philly fans out from attacking, I guess.
Right, because they're going to try to hop the railing and they're going to see zip ties and they're going to be like, oh, wait, never mind. I can't do that.
Can't do that. Those zip ties didn't bring scissors.
Unbreakable. Yeah, Spanky wins here with the sliced bread. Gets a win over Jody Fleisch. Another pretty good match here. Definitely like I think their styles meshed pretty well. What did you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a fan of the name for one Spanky. I'm glad he's not Spanky anymore. But
yeah,
yeah, Jody Fleisch with a guy he's clearly not familiar with, but Spanky was able to put a nice little 5-minute match together. No harm. Didn't go on very long. They got their flips in. Spanky wins with the sliced bread number 2, as commentary was very, very specific.
Best thing since sliced bread is what Steve Carino told me over and over again. So we get one of the Texas Wrestling Academy's, another one of those guys, American Dragon, versus Doug Williams. When I saw this match on paper, it was like, holy shit, this is going to be a fun watch. And it was a pretty good match. Definitely very technical.
Yeah, it was a welcome pace change.
It was. Yeah, it's a good way to put it. It was definitely, it stood out from the other matches on the card. Got away from the lucha a little bit and more of a UK-based, Japan-based. And I noticed the commentary, they were kind of burying British wrestling, which I know at this point, British wrestling was it was a pretty shallow pool.
Non-existent, one might say.
Yeah. Yeah, that they literally had all the British wrestlers on this card, I think.
All 3 of them.
Yeah. So I guess, yeah, when you look at it that way, I guess can't get on it too much. But a surprising finish to this match. Doug Williams gets the win over Dragon here with like a reverse suplex. It looked like he was trying to do a reverse suplex into some sort of maestro cradle kind of deal, but it looked like it was kind of bungled a little bit. So, but yeah, Williams gets the pin there and he moves on, and Bryan Danielson does not. What'd you think about it?
Like I said, it was a very welcome pace change. I was definitely in for kind of just a calm down period after seeing so much lucha on the show, and the wacky tag team thing. Like, this was just nice to catch your breath, enjoy a little technical wrestling. You had 2 big stars here in the ring, or at least developing stars, right? That the crowd clearly knew. They were very respectful. They didn't, the one thing on the show is you never heard boring chants, right?
Right.
You never heard people getting angry at the match that they were seen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and they didn't seem bored either. They just seemed like they were also catching their breath. And it was a good thing, because the next match, so this played a number of different roles, and it was getting the crowd to calm down for something the next 2 were supposed to bring. Right.
For an explosion.
Yeah.
Yep. So next match, Amazing Red versus Low Key.
Christopher Daniels really made it clear that Amazing Red needs to beat that piece of shit Low Key.
Yeah, he must mean business, because he said shit. So yeah, the opening sequence.
Wait.
Go ahead.
Before the match and Low Key came out, you remember when the not New Jack guy and
Yep.
Boogaloo and Homicide, they're all just yelling at each other, all hyped up and pumped, and they walk by Loki.
Yes. Dude.
They're just like, we're out of here, we're fucking over, we hate this shit. They're just swearing up a storm. Then they leave the gym, and Loki looks at the camera. Hey guys, what's up? What was that about?
That needs to be made into a GIF or a clip of some sort.
It's like, what's going on? Like, what's going on?
It's hilarious. They're all so heated. And it literally, the source of it is one team said that they're the best, and then the other team said that they're the best. That's it.
Loki's reaction, because he'd be like anybody in that situation. Guys, what are you so angry about? Like, I don't know. I was just getting ready for my match.
Very non-low key in his tone there.
Yeah, it's quite. I don't know why I found that just absolutely hysterical. It's like, look at Loki over here.
I loved it.
Yeah, and then he comes out and does fucking Jet Li, Bruce Lee impression.
God,
Good God.
Low-key strikes are horrifying. Like, if you get caught with one of those bad boys, you are out.
Dude, it was awesome. I tweeted this out of this match. I'm like, this is fucking great. This is the match of the night. It only went 11 minutes, which I was shocked, right? That it was so short. Amazing Red was able to pull off just everything he wanted to. This is a good example of like the Lucha style, just hitting everything to a key, including dodging Loki's death strikes that he was going for.
Yes.
It was left punch, left kick, dodge, and Amazing Red's just matrixifying out of these things. Loki goes for this like stomp on the mat, and you just hear the big thump, and Loki does the Jet Li like scream with the arms, and Amazing Red's like, fuck, you missed me. And the crowd just, like, as it was going on, you see the crowd slowly rising to their feet. And then they're like, I saw one guy throw his popcorn in the air, and everyone just explodes in the arena. The holy shit chants happen. I'm just like, fuck yeah, this is what we're watching. This was so awesome. And I'm convinced this would not have gotten the reaction it did without Loki earlier on the night knocking the shit out of that dude.
Dude, yeah, and it really made him look legit. Because even, I mean, maybe I thought it was legit. I still think it's legit as I'm speaking. I think you're wrong that it wasn't a shoot.
Don't be a mark.
I am. But yeah, man, this low-key Amazing Red match, my match of the night as well. I like how Amazing Red was able to, like you said, kind of incorporate his lucha style, but use it in conjunction with Loki's style. And I think all that meshed really well. Like you said, pretty short, but I think it's all it needed. I think it was a sprint of a match, and Loki eventually gets the win here. So awesome match.
It was awesome. It was so great. If you got the time, like, this would be the one to go check out. When I put this match out on Twitter, I had a few people actually contact me on Twitter. One in particular said he was actually there at the show that night.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I was like, oh my God, you got to tell me about it. We're messaging, and he just goes, yeah, I still remember that match to this day. It just sticks out in his mind because it when you see a sequence like that, right, and how just amped up it gets you, and it puts you in an emotional mood, and it just really sticks in your mind. You know, I got moments like that myself. Just last year, I saw Daisuke Sekimoto take on now I'm blanking on the name, the Dirty Daddy.
Oh, okay.
Chris Dickinson, and he trained, like, he quote unquote trained by beating the biggest and baddest indie dudes just to get ready for his match against Sekimoto. And I was at that match live. I'd seen all the build up to it, and just led to this match where they're just slapping meat, sweat flying, and there was this chop exchange, and they're just hitting each other harder and harder and harder. And then finally Sekimoto goes down, and the crowd, it was that same reaction with every chop. And the closer he got to getting knocked down, the crowd just rose, and we all just started screaming. It was just a special moment, and I definitely felt that same similarity here in this low-key Amazing Red match. Just when it clicks, it clicks.
Yeah, and it's a really good glimpse into the future of ROH, because that crowd energy is like what they would become known for, and a lot of that is from low key. You know, he had a lot of really good matches with Samoa Joe. I think I forget what year it is, like 2003 maybe. I've seen
the big 600-day run that Joe had.
Yes, yeah, I've seen a few of those matches like in a vacuum, but I look forward to like seeing that like chronologically with context. But man, the next segment, more overlap here. The Natural Born Sinners challenge the Carnage Crew on the next show to a bunkhouse match.
I'm sure you can't wait.
I hope Bunkhouse Buck makes an appearance with Colonel Parker. Otherwise, I want my money back.
No more Colonel Parker, please.
So yeah, next. I think it
Johnny B. Bad needs to show up while he's at it.
I hope he gets some Johnny B. Bad in ROH at some point. I hope he makes a cameo appearance. Have him have a match with Low Key and see what happens.
Actually, I might watch that.
Like kick him in the chest and glitter just explodes out of his body.
Ref calls for the bell. The glitter's everywhere.
Too much glitter in the ring. Can't continue. Man, that brings us to the main event. AJ Styles versus Christopher Daniels. I think I mentioned this earlier, but it's so funny to see this in 2002, knowing what a legacy this kind of rivalry would have in TNA all throughout this decade. So,
fucking commentary being like, dream match situation. You may never see us again.
Dude, every match was a dream match. Every match was the greatest match of all time. They even said during this match that this was the greatest card in the history of wrestling.
They did say that. Which they would put this card up against any other of the era. And that line in particular, I started thinking about that. I'm like, 2002.
Not just the era of all time.
They did say the all time. They did say that too. That part can't agree with.
Okay.
But like of the era, I started thinking about that. I'm like,
if you're talking about just in ring during that era, I can entertain that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about. I'm like, oh, okay, well, you can't. Obviously, WrestleMania is its own like entity, you know. But like match for match, absolutely, this card could probably meet up with the best. You know, I would have to like look at a Noah card or a certain not even definitely not WCW. Now that I think about it.
I'm trying to think of other promotions that were around at the time. I can't really think of any.
That's the problem. Like you'd have to go back to the 80s to really see like a full card of just stars. But from like the in-ring standpoint, this was a phenomenal show. And ends with Daniel Styles. Not the match of the night. The crowd was just exhausted by the end of all this. Yep. Yeah, getting a 22-minute match. This match was fine. I thought it was very good at times. I thought it didn't quite reach the peak I think it was going for. But I also believe that's probably a testament to these two guys in their 20s just not having the experience to put on to reach that second level of octane.
And a lot of that comes also, you got to consider that each guy had 2 matches tonight.
Well, I mean, one match. Daniels had a pretty short outing, but AJ Styles had
Scoot Andrews. Scoot Andrews will always blow you up. The Black Nature Boy, everybody. He's black.
Yeah, he was black.
So it's a summary of my thoughts about Scoot Andrews. But yeah, like you said, the crowd was definitely tired at this point, probably pretty hot. They have seen a lot of wrestling so far. I think the show is about 3 hours, and you got to think they were probably sitting there for at least 4.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I think this is like the 12th match on the card or something. There's a lot of matches. And like you said, AJ Styles, Christopher Daniels, they would only go on to improve their chemistry. This is very early in their careers, obviously. Some of the stuff they did in TNA is still legendary to this day. So it was interesting to see them like in their early stages and to see where they are then and to see where they would end up being. Yeah,
there was a few real good near falls at the end here that brought the crowd back up a little bit there. So this was great. They did a big 4-way pull apart of all the people involved in the Iron Man match later. So hey, all in all, great
Well,
stuff.
but we got to talk about, you bring that up, we got to talk about low-key putting Daniels in a dragon sleeper for goddamn 5 minutes.
Well, I mean,
And
you got to do that, right?
And then everybody gets out. First, the whole roster comes out. Not one person's trying to separate them. So
well,
what do they do?
that?
No,
Daniels
the
is
logic,
a dick. I don't know if you've seen the show.
You know what? Yeah, that was hammered into my head a lot by Steve Carino. But everybody on the roster, they carry out Key and Daniels while Low-Key still has the dragon sleeper on him. So they're like carrying them both to the back while he's still choking out Daniels. This was a hilarious little detail that I saw. And they also, before this, Donnie B gets in the ring and makes a huge announcement that ROH will be on some local TV station, which I guess, context, at this point in their short lifespan, that's probably a big deal.
Huge deal. Absolutely.
I don't know how long that lasted, or I guess whenever Ring of Honor started traveling, maybe. Not really too familiar on the whole TV deal situation with Ring of Honor, other than like HDNet and stuff. But
I guess when you think about it, Ring of Honor just really hasn't evolved past that point, right? They're still only on these like weird local channels, Fight TV, and they just can't seem to get past a very mediocre level, right? In terms of exposure and keeping an audience, keeping an attendance, which is a big deal to them, up and down over the many years.
It's a matter of offering something that nobody else is offering. And in the past, I don't know, decade or so, there hasn't been a lot of motivation to like seek them out over other companies. Cause they did bring back the pure title recently, and that's even sparked my interest. I haven't gotten a chance to watch it. But I still might check that out at some point just to see, just out of curiosity, because I haven't watched Ring of Honor since like probably 10 years or so.
Oh wow, it's been a hot minute.
I catch a match every now and then, but as far as following it, I gave it a try because they have the Honor Club, which is like their version of the WWE Network, and they have like their local show, or not local, their weekly show on there, and I watched it, and it's like, this isn't worth adding an hour to my wrestling.
Well, that's kind of what they've always done though. It's very dry, right?
Yeah.
The booking's dry. They're trying to be different, but at the same time trying to be way too pure about it, to put a term on that. Because as much as, say, a hardcore fan would appreciate the pure tournament, right? For just throwing that out there. Is that going to appeal to an audience in today's day? Right? And I can't say that it would, right? If we look at, like, people like to say, well, wrestling's been working for 100 years. Well, you know what also has been working for 100 years? Lucha Libre.
Yeah, in a certain market.
Right, in Mexico, and what's been kind of the style that's been growing the industry. It's a mixture of the Japanese and lucha style. Now, how you mold it to your market is the interesting part. Like, how are Americans molding it? How are the Europeans molding it? Which they're doing with their British and Euro style, which is very fascinating. They're how can we add flips into these tiny arenas with smaller rings?
Yeah, exactly. So, because I've been watching a lot of Progress Wrestling lately, and that's definitely a thing that you see, and it's interesting to see kind of how it's evolved, since this show in 2002 to a decade or a decade and a half later, and how that's evolved. So it's all about the evolution. Really.
Yeah, so I think kind of going backwards to what used to work isn't necessarily going to grow, for you. Okay, to put a positive spin on it, for your fandom, and they're into that, great. You're keeping your fans. You're keeping your fans happy. No problem with that. AEW knows what their fans want. They're keeping it. Impact definitely knows what their fans want. Shooting people on TV.
Who shot him, or whatever his name is?
Yeah, who shot Johnny Bravo? I'm like, hey, that's Impact. That's what they do. That's fine. ROH wants to do the pure tournament. Hey, great. You got to ask yourself then the next question: what's what's keeping you from reaching the next level? And it's different it's different for every promotion. What is the answer? And that's hard to come up with something. You could throw out ideas. What's Ring of Honor missing? And if I'm going to throw out just a theory or something to discuss, think about at home, maybe it's missing what made it popular in the first place. And that's what we saw on this show today. And whenever I check in on Ring of Honor today, I think they're missing a lot of this old charm that they had in the early 2000s.
Yeah, I think a lot of it too comes with just the stigma of ROH, and recently they've had a lot of bad press and a lot of bad booking decisions, and just not a lot of quality product that they're putting out. And I think a lot of what their appeal was during this time in 2002 and the next few years was that it felt different, because we touched on it earlier. WWE has their hands around the balls of the wrestling world at this point, so fans are very hungry just for anything different, and they kind of find that in TNA for a little bit, and they find that with ROH, and neither company saw a success that even came close to matching WWE, but they both ROH and TNA kind of had those cult followings for a long time. And I guess it's really just a matter of, do we want to keep it at that cult following, or do we want to kind of expand? And I think both ROH and TNA kind of experimented with expanding, and both kind of flopped.
I don't think I ever got that feeling from ROH. And then with that expansion idea, what we got with TNA was
different scales.
Yeah, let's just say the Bischoff Hogan WCW 2.0 was probably not the best idea in the world.
No, yeah, different scales for sure. But ROH with moving to HDNet, that's around the point when I stopped watching, just because it felt too polished to me, and it felt too WWE, for lack of a better term, and it felt like it didn't feel underground. It didn't feel like it was that secret thing that only I was watching.
Yes, I understand. I understand what you're saying. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
As soon as TNA started, actually, it really reminded me of horror, like PTSD of WCW. But
yeah, because TNA had their own identity for a long time too, with the X division and the tag division. Nobody else was putting out that kind of
right, and they got away from that, just trying to do not that.
Yep, they took away two sides of their ring. They brought in all sorts of guys. I'm trying to even think. Mr. Kennedy, Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle was a bad example, because that was a good thing. But
Kurt Angle is a good example, as in a good example for them.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's what I mean. But there's I'm trying to think. I can't even. The Dudleys. I guess the Dudleys had some good stuff. I can't think of any WWE guys that were flops, but I'm sure there was a bunch. Like I said, Mr. Kennedy,
Matt Morgan,
Jeff Hardy.
What was his name? Nathan
Jones.
I think he showed up in TNA and he got an immediate put. That was stupid. Christian turned out to be Tomko's a great example. That's even better. And the list just grows from there. Brodus Clay showed up and they pushed him. It was just one thing after another. I like looking back at the Christian example, because this came up in a conversation with me. We were talking about TNA and stuff and Ring of Honor, and do you think Christian's a Hall of Famer? And I'm like, well, it depends what you look at it. In WWE, I would argue no, right? But in TNA, I would argue yes, because he came in and, for all intents and purposes, they did immediately push him, but it wasn't a success at first. When you go back and watch it, it was kind of a disaster because he just didn't work the same. He worked WWE style, right?
Right.
He wasn't used to what we saw on this card here today in Ring of Honor. It was very fast. Christian couldn't keep up, and he had to learn. And that's what a problem with a lot of those other WWE guys were, is they thought they were big stars, didn't need to work as hard, and they got blown up and exposed, right? Christian was exposed, but he worked at it, and he maintained and got better what he needed to, and that's what made him a main event star, and then that's what led to success later outside the company. And that's what, a lot of people, I think, there's a lot of good examples here on how wrestling evolved, and a lot came from these beginning ROH shows and early TNA shows that you are covering on your podcast, which is very nice.
Yep, and I'll be sure to have you on one of those. I know you said you're very hot and cold with TNA, but that could
my god, I lose my mind watching.
I'm going to find the worst card I can find, and then I'm going to have you on here. I'm going to have a lot of Jeff Jarrett.
Can we do Unbreakable 2005 or something? Nope. I'll watch that.
Nope. We're going to have some Jeff Jarrett, some Kevin Nash. Maybe we'll catch a Johnny B. Bad episode. He was there for a little bit.
Well, at least I could laugh at that.
Man. But yeah, man, as far as ROH, Road to the Title, 2002, that's pretty much all I got. Pretty good show. Like I said, it kind of... everything kind of started to blend together after a little bit, but you can't discredit the wrestling that was on this show, which was amazing.
Besides the women's match, what would be your worst match on the night? I feel like that's a tough one.
I mean, there were some short matches that weren't necessarily bad. They just were very I could have done without, like the Biohazard match or Scoot Andrews. I'm like looking through the card right now, and no match struck me as bad. I kind of was expecting a little more from Dragon and Doug Williams, but it was still a good match. Maybe the Nana match, although that kick to the head was fucking awesome. So
that served a purpose. I'm gonna go with the Biohazard match, personally.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say I hated it either.
I don't remember it being particularly bad. It was just I was kind of indifferent to it, which is never good in wrestling, I guess.
Well, I mean, you just won't remember it, right? And maybe that's not the worst thing in the world on a card with this.
Maybe Biohazard will bounce back.
Not so sure about that one.
Yeah, we'll see.
Maybe you can team up with Adam Bomb or Chronic.
Oh man, that's the dream team I never knew I needed.
Biohazard and Adam Bomb.
Oh God, that is something. If Vince Russo heard you say that, he would try to do that right now. Although isn't Adam Bomb dead? He would still try to do it. He would find a way.
I'm sure his heart exploded like many of those guys.
Oh man,
I believe 2002 was actually the year where like a ton of deaths started in wrestling, like a lot. Like they were dropping like flies.
Yeah, 2002 through like 2005. It was like very bad era.
It was like once or twice a week you would hear someone's heart exploded, or they had like a brain aneurysm, or just crazy things. Yeah, wrestlers were dropping like flies during this time.
The product of the 80s and 90s and that whole lifestyle, I guess.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
It sure is.
Mixed with steroids, it's even better.
Well, on that note, do you have anything? You have your own podcast there, don't you?
Yes, RedLeaf Retrocast, retro wrestling, a lot of the modern stuff. We cover a lot of the promotions that don't get a lot of coverage. Dragon Gate, DDT. So if you're an AEW fan, I'm sure you'll like some DDT. Lots of shenanigans and serious wrestling mixture. Dragon Gate, Lucha Libre / Japanese strong style promotion. If you listen to me, you probably could tell that I'm a fan of that style. New Japan we cover, of course. AEW. My mom covers AEW to give a very different perspective on things.
Definitely follow if you don't want to take time to watch Japanese wrestling, but you still want to keep up with it. Definitely a good listen for that.
Yeah. If you go into the backlogs, I covered a lot of European wrestling, WXW out of Germany. I speak German, so that was that. But obviously, European wrestling's been closed down for a long time, so we shifted to more Joshi. Love Japanese women's wrestling. I love women's wrestling in general. Tend to cover a lot of that. And then, of course, the retro wrestling. WCW Nitro, we've entered 1999. Horrible, horrible stuff. So you can hear us suffer and make fun of things. All Japan Women, so women's wrestling out of Japan from the 80s and 90s. And going on a New Japan journey through the 90s, in which we cover that and All Japan. So a lot of that's an era that I am not totally familiar with. So it's a learning experience there, and watching a lot of these legends develop, like the Great Muta. Ooh,
hell yeah!
Recently watched a match with Hulk Hogan. That was an interesting one.
Oh man, what a clash!
Yes,
that's something. Maybe Hogan will teach that guy a thing or two.
Yeah, RedLeaf Retrocast.
Love it. Love it. Well, yeah, thanks for coming on again, man. I'll be sure to have you on for some more Jeff Jarrett.
Please no.
All right. Yeah. Thanks for coming, man.
Yeah, happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Once again, thank you to JD from the RedLeaf Retrocast for once again supplying his elegance and his wealth of knowledge on on this episode here for Ring of Honor. Really fun time, and I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. Thank you guys, as always, for supporting this podcast. I'm seeing the growth every single week, and it's awesome to see, and keeps me coming up here and doing these fun shows for you guys. So if you are a new listener, feel free to check out apronbump.com. You can find all my social media, can guide you to all the avenues to where you can subscribe and listen to this podcast, as well as a section that kind of breaks off all the episodes into categories. So if you want to listen to Ring of Honor episodes, if you want to listen to mid-90s wrestling, Attitude Era, current stuff, whatever. All that is up there, and I have a lot of plans to kind of expand on that in the future. So stay tuned for that. Otherwise, yeah, that's all Daddy has for you today. And yeah, I'm hard.